It says we're live. Completely impromptu stream this afternoon. I had absolutely no idea that I would be free this afternoon, but seeing as football's been called off and I'm not working, then yeah, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. And I'm fully aware that this is a horrific time for people on the other side of the Atlantic. But seeing as you guys have been streaming at horrific times for me in recent weeks, all I say to that is nya nya nya. So, and Saxius has decided to drop in and say hello. So, hello, Saxius.
Hello.
I have no idea how many people are going to join us because this wasn't planned. This was just completely opportunistic. I was supposed to be going to watch one of my kids play football this afternoon, but let's just say the opposition have pulled out scared. It's the only thing we can put it down to. Second time they've done it to us this season, and it's a team that lost 2-1 to a team that we beat 20-0 earlier in the season. So they didn't fancy driving for an hour to get their backsides handed to them. I think that's more likely what it is. Anyway, I just thought I'd do a bit on map making and talking about games, and things about a really good game yesterday. Played for about 9 hours. Didn't plan to play for 9 hours. The session was designed to be just to drop in, talk about the game, make a few characters, maybe have a couple of hours of play. But we got the characters done quickly. People were keen to play, so we got going. And about 9 hours later, the session ground to a halt because it was a natural break. They left the dungeon to possibly bring in a replacement character for a player who'd lost their character, and decided to rest up there, and have been going for 9 hours. So why not? Why not? Good point. They've done about half of it. It's my OSE game, it's a drop-in game designed for just a bit of relaxed Saturday afternoon gaming. It might not always be Saturday afternoon. It might be Saturday evening sometimes, just whenever I'm free and whenever players are free. It's one of those games you can just drop in and drop out. It is quite high lethality, being OSE, first level. 3 PCs died yesterday. And in those 9 hours, I think the one character... I don't think anyone managed to get 100 XP yet towards level 2. I think about 95 XP is what the characters that survived the entire time finished on. But it was very old school. Very old school. They're doing their own mapping and lots of planning and lots of resourcefulness and avoiding trouble and all that sort of stuff. And Hungar, what are you doing awake at this time? Hungar, you should be asleep. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning where you are. Cheers, Hungar. Cheers, Hungar.
Wow.
Thank you. I hope you're well, Hungar. I hope everything's improving at your end. Last time I spoke to you, you were in hospital again. I had a rough night last night. Sorry to hear that. Are you at home at the moment, or are you back being tended to by nice nurses? Which, of course, is the perk of being. If there is a perk of being not very well, it is the nice nurses. So, anyway, what we're going to talk about today. I just thought, I know Elfbait did a bit of mapping recently, and I thought, well, why have I not done any mapping so far? John, pull your finger out. I'm not particularly great with Inkarnate, but you can see it on screen at the moment. It's a browser-based piece of mapping software. I have a subscription to it. It costs me about £5 a month, and for that you just get more textures and stamps and what have you. And you can see some of the maps I've done are on screen at the moment. I'll just scroll those down and show them off because that's all part of it. You can see Orc Caves and Road to Tharbad and bits around Bree. Some half-made maps that I've not finished, trying different ideas. A lot of these are the maps I've done for my MERP game, which is what I'm going to be doing today. A a MERP game. And then there's other maps I've done for other games I've run online. Some are good, some are. I mean, look at this Lake Kappa North one that's clearly half made, whereas this Borostani map looks rather nice. This, yeah, it's just a lot of it is messing about. What I do like is this one, my world map here. That took me a while. And I haven't even thought of the names of some of these maps. The new map, Crater. That's actually where I placed the Lost City in my the B4 in my own game world, in a sandy, dry, parched crater, a caldera, up in some bleached mountains. I didn't put it in a desert. It was buried in that crater. But yeah, you can also see how things have changed over time. Some of these older maps look a little bit basic. This large region hadn't quite worked out how to zoom out. So there's a bit of a ring around the edge there. Oh well. But today, what I'm going to be doing, the reason I'm going to be doing this particular one today is my last MERP session last weekend. My group found a handful of hand-drawn maps. And it was just I just wrote on my adventure notes, find maps. I have no idea exactly what the maps well, I have no idea the exact composition of the maps. I just thought I'll throw some maps in there, give them some ideas of places to go. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is I'm going to create a couple of those maps, and it's going to be up to the players where they go, because it is that sort of game. The only reason why they are where they are in the world at the moment is because they decided to go down the Brandywine River. They could easily have gone east towards the Troll Shores. Totally up to them. I've just got to adapt to it and have enough prepared to be able to improvise a session. Last session didn't go all that well for me in terms of game smoothness, because I had. I'll talk you through it while I'm doing the map, but. These are hand-drawn maps I'm doing, and the reason I'm using Inkarnate and doing it on stream is I want to show you one of the Inkarnate options. I'm hoping my computer can cope with this, because it might be a little bit chuggy with streaming this at the same time as doing it. But if you look, Inkarnate here has a parchment world option. Now, the parchment option is great for those sort of sketched treasure mappy type things you find. You can make them look, but the natural effect on it is like a scrap of paper. So really does help. And these maps are not going to be particularly big. They're going to be little bits of parts of the world. So I'm just going to make them square maps. Relatively small. As I'm streaming, I think I'm going to drop the editing resolution as well. This is just to be sympathetic towards my computer.
But then again, it's a basic map. It's not really meant to be high detailed and deep with graphics.
Exactly. So where am I getting my information from for these maps? Right. As I've waved around before, I have a decent MERP collection, and the Arnor book comes with a load of these. Hopefully you can see those well enough. And it came with a batch of them, and they are beautiful world maps, but there's lots of gaps in them, and that's perfect for DMs, because we can fill those gaps. And the default MERP time setting as well, time of the 17th century and the Third Age, Tolkien didn't write a lot about that era. So again, there are gaps aplenty to be filled in, and the creators of MERP did a great job of plugging lots of bits and pieces in, but there's still enough for the DM to play with. And in this campaign, I have been using the Arnor book, and I've been using some of the seeds in the book, but then just embellishing and adapting and just making things my own, and the players seem to have been enjoying it. Isn't that? Which of course is the purpose. It's the entire purpose. Right. So what we're going to have for the first map. I do apologise if this makes noise on the stream, but I'm just going to be placing a map in front of me for me to refer to, which, if you recognise the region, do you know that area, Sexius?
No, I don't.
Doesn't the word Cardalan give you a big clue?
I can't read that.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
No, I can't read it because you're a really small pixel on my screen.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you're not. It's not. You're not magnetized up. I've just got what you're sharing on my screen.
Oh, yeah. This is me trying to do everything on one screen. I can't actually see what's.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just anything you hold up, I won't be able to see that well. I'll quickly need to dip up though.
Yeah. So Hunger, you're out of. I'm just looking back at the stream. Hunger out of hospital. That's good, but back last night. Well, cheers, Hunger. Enjoy your sleep. Have as much sleep as you can. Thanks for popping in, and thanks for the $2 donation. Or as always, much appreciated. Look after yourself, mate. Right. Hopefully, I'm hoping this will come through okay on the map. But so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to do a local map that they've been referring to, and General Nut is playing. Hello, General Nut. General Nut is playing in that game, and don't worry, you can watch this because these are the maps that your characters will be finding, and you won't be learning anything that you shouldn't be learning from what I say on here. Okay, right. I'm just going to zoom this map out. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on Inkarnate. All I've done with it is just mess about. That's what I do. I am a messer abouter.
That's usually how you end up getting some great stuff. Because you don't need to have the great insights of geography and what have you. That's what I've done whenever I used Inkarnate. It's just like basic shape. And then from there, you can sort of, make things up as you go along.
Exactly. Well, there might be a better way of doing it than this, but the first thing I usually do is just block in the map with land. If I'm doing land.
Oh, God, yeah. Absolutely.
As you can see, it's a nice parchmenty colour. And I want to put the location where the players are at the moment on the map, which is going to be Sarnford. I'm going to make this look sort of suitably chunky because a hand-drawn map will be that way. And it doesn't need to be geographically accurate because, of course, a hand-drawn map is not going to be geographically accurate. Up the top there, that's where the Brandywine runs. And Sarnford is going to be just there. There is no more water on this map at all. That is it. That is just a bit of the Brandywine. Shall I make it a bit wider? Yeah, I think someone who would be making a hand-drawn map would possibly overemphasize the river. So I'm just going to... It is lagging. It is lagging, so some of my clicks will come through slowly. Hopefully it's updating nicely enough.
Yeah, it's just a bit slow down. That's right.
Yeah. And if I'm doing a map to look a bit more authentic, I would make these lines a bit more higgledy-piggledy and whatever. But somebody who's just drawing a map won't be worried about that.
Oh, no. It's for like their own reference as well. Because for them, it's...
Exactly.
Like, my brother's just going to be starting to DM, and he wanted to know how he was going to be doing the whole map, like explaining how a map would be. It's like, well, he's in the military, so I tried to explain to him, like, from your experience, you have a map that a normal person would read, right? It's like, yeah, that's correct. So just do the same there. A map with your own references and your own things, so that you and your unit would know how to read it, but it doesn't need to be read by anyone else because it's not meant to be handed over by anyone else.
You just need to know things like here's a town, here's where the paths go or the roads. This road leads to this town. The distance is approximately this.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we should take note of on the way? Right.
Yeah.
I've loaded up a few icons here. There's quite a good array. Though this map is a little well. This map is one of the more limited ones. The other maps have a lot more. It's looking for something suitable for a town, a small town, pretty decrepit town. We don't want ruins, do we? No. Dwarf, no.
I mean, the huts. There is a hut or a teepee.
A teepee
right below
one.
the
that one there. Yeah,
that one. Because it just needs to be like, okay, this is a place to rest, or this is a shelter.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
quite right.
Even then,
Quite
like
right.
there was the igloo as well that you could use. But again, like this is just down to like how those individuals might have, used it for themselves. Oh, you can change it. There you go.
There's multiple stamps within each little category. So yeah, that's probably the best one, I think. I like this one to do the job. And the way I presented it when I ran the game was that it's a rundown town, and there's quite a few refugees that are in a shanty area to the east. So yeah, this will. I want to be quite big, and it's lagging a little for me, which is a bit of a shame. I'm not clicking anything at the moment. So I'm going to do this quite
Is that
large.
the stamp that's increasing, or is the actual thing increasing? Oh no. There you go.
There we go. Right. So Sarnford is there. Okay. That is the town of Ford Hall. So Ford Hall is beside Sarnford. So we'll put a bit of text on the map, and it would be black. And what sort of font do you think it would be scrawled in? Let's see if we can find a sort of handwriting-y font.
One that can also be read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that one.
That's a good one, yeah. It's both got the italics, and it's got a nice sort of like fling to it. I'd use that.
It has. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger as well, because I think it wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a good size. Can be read by anyone.
We'll place it. And the town's name is Ford Hall. And this is where the lag will come in, because it might miss out letters occasionally, but that doesn't matter, because things don't always need to be spelt correctly. Okay, so there we have the town of Ford Hall, which is where the characters are at the moment. Importantly, there are roads in place. Some quite well-known roads from Tolkien's works. So the roads will help define where we put other features. Which style should we have for roads? I think they would draw a road as just
a straight line.
Yeah.
No, that's what most would do.
And it would be drawn in black. And I'm just going to move that out of the way. This, the Red Way, I think it's called. I always forget the names of the roads used in Tolkien stuff. I'm terrible with that.
That's, of all the things to remember, the road names and really not what I'd be going for.
So this is basically a. Go on.
No, I was just going to say, besides, like, it's not about the accuracy of, the exact road from the map. You just need to get the rough idea of where it's going, and then the rest can all be built around that anyway. Because, again, this is something that you would have someone do hand-drawn.
Yes. Yes, true. That is true. So that's the one road, and that leads down towards Tharbad. Now, this is something I've always found a little bit annoying. I don't know how to. Do you see that big circle that appeared on?
Yeah.
So selects the road. It selects the road automatically. It's a bit of a pain.
It's Ford Hall. Go on.
Ford Hall is at a crossing. I'm just going to put the other road there. There we go.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, you can edit it because obviously I might want to take this to the edge of the map like that. Yeah.
I might
Do the
take
same
it,
there.
further out, make it bigger, anything like that. It's just the developers thinking like, okay, how can we make this, as user friendly or as close to Photoshop?
I just find it a bit of a pain. I do find it a bit of a pain. There's a lot of time I don't want to select it.
But you come from the mindset that once you draw it, that's it. Like you would have hit that perfectly, and you would have kept on deleting it until it was exactly the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
So you're a perfectionist when it comes to this, whereas the general developers have gone like, okay, we need to cater to the people who just splash something on and then edit it as they go along. The idiots who are just like, fuck it, it'll be good enough.
And I know you do. There's layer tools and things.
Yes.
I don't plan and think ahead, so layers really don't suit me.
Well, yeah. Again, but you've seen some of the pictures that you can get with Inkarnate. Like some of them are gorgeous. Where I had like a Titan skeleton beneath a ice covered lake. I was just like, how have you accomplished this? This I don't understand. What level of details you had to do just to get to that?
Some people do some beautiful stuff.
I mean, like I just go to Inkarnate just because the maps sometimes are like put out there for other people to take. I was just like, why not? I mean, since you're making it public and anyone's allowed to take it, of course I'm going to use it. It's gorgeous.
Yes. Okay. Now, there's that track. Oh, now this is where I often have issues with some of these maps. There's not really a key on it, and I think I have made a boo boo. There is not a road there. That is the border. It's a dotted border showing the border between Arthedain and Cardolan.
Well, that wouldn't be on the thing, so you're fine. Just a quick delete.
No, I can ignore that. Yes, and we have deleted it. So yes, there we go. Right, there is another road to put on here, and that is the road that comes down from Bree through the Barrow Downs, across the Vale of Andreth, and which joins our road down. Come on, thank you, Inkarnate. Joins our road down here. It doesn't need to be any more accurate than that. So, yes, I suppose I will fiddle with it, make it look like it joins up. There we go. And what I am going to do here is put what someone would put on this sort of map.
Coffee stains.
Like yes, it's true. You can probably do that.
Well, I'm sure you can. Either that or like signs of like someone having put their ale mug across it, or like, oh god. Yes. I know if I did that to my players, my Saturday group, they would actually be like, "How do you know us, Oscar? How do you know we would do exactly that?" It was like, but
Does that fit? Yes. There we go. To Bree and to Tharbad.
Yep.
There is another settlement to put on here as well. And that is one at that crossing. And I'm going to use the same thing as I used before. Now, this is, a good bit about the history of the land at the time. This is Third Age 17th century Cardolan. So, for those who know the lore, it's a great area to adventure in because Cardolan has pretty much collapsed. It's 3 or 4 years since the plague absolutely ravaged the lands, taking between 40 and 50% of adult humans. So it's pretty lawless. Any security is provided by mercenaries or small local militias, because that's all that's left. There's no cohesive government for the region as a whole. It's just little pockets, little cities that have got their own governance, but obviously that's open for corruption. Tharbad probably being the biggest, which in this era of the Third Age, Tharbad itself is a cesspit that is sinking into the swamp on which it's built. So yeah, it's a good place to adventure, because it's an opportunity for others to rise and attempt to usurp power, and the ne'er-do-wells to raid and pillage. So that's precisely what's happening, as the players have just found out, because what they need to know is what I'm going to put next on the map, hopefully. Just looking at my map. Yeah, there's no great thoroughfare to where they've got to go. And the maps don't join up particularly well, which is a bit of a pain. Cardland, yeah, I can, can see a little bit. I'm just trying to work these out in my head, but down the bottom, the place they've got to be fearful of. There's no road leading there, but they know that this is where the big bad guy is currently holed up. A place called Kreb Durga. And I may or may not, in a later map, do a map of the actual region with Kreb Durga in it. No, which road should be parallel to the Brandywine?
Is it the one to Bree or
the one to Bree? No, that is a separate road. Let's see if I can. That's the map. Okay, there's the old forest. We've got, if I can get my finger in the right sort of spot, that is where Sarn Ford is.
right?
And it's you're looking down here.
Right.
There. So the Brandywine, that's the Brandywine. On my other maps, I've just done little tracks rather than roads, and I've just made them out to be roads so much as anything. And I've added them. These are things I've added. I mean, this is just a general map showing big locations and big features. So yes, there will be a track going from Ford Hall up alongside the Brandywine, because people will have used that route. Especially refugees, because of the recent plague and the Orcish incursions. So that's the general idea. But you came down the river by barge anyway. But that's all that matters. But these are the main roads. These are the big roads, the ones that are talked about in Tolkien's works. So, and there will be inconsistencies between hand-drawn maps and
The
official
one.
maps.
Well, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, because at the end of the day, I think it was another DM I listened to. He was discussing that, he as the DM, he has the correct world map. The ones that he's selling to the players is the one made by a cartographer who has had to do travels himself. And the players kept on going like, but we need precise measurements. And the cartographer went, this is me measuring this. I do not go out with a string and measure every 100 feet to get this kind of scaling. And the player's like, why not? It was like, do you have any idea how dangerous it is out there? Yeah, we do this all the time. Then you know why I wouldn't do it. It's like, no, we don't get it. I don't have magic. I don't have swords. I don't have the gold to hire people to go with me for a year to do this. And they went, oh, well, this is something making sense. Fine. How much do you charge? Well, now that you've been picking at me, the price is going up. That's not fair.
Yes, like the price goes up.
it was hilarious. Similarly, so like I recently had to in my second edition game yesterday, I actually had to go like, wait, how far has this traveled? And I had to get off the map and like actually like measure the entire thing, and I'd done proper scaling and everything. So I went, wait, it's only 100 miles from this area to this area. How? I just realized just how small my world actually was. I was like, oh, makes sense. It does make sense why some things can travel this far.
Now, one thing. What? Go on, keep going.
I was going to say,
I'm just doodling.
Yeah. So on the topic of maps, like one of the things that I found that I like is that when I make maps, I will have major sites like cities, roads, rivers, that sort of thing. Everything else I sort of leave. I'll give out like the greeneries, like there's a forest over here, there's plains over here, that sort of thing, just so that I know the ecology that we're going to be dealing with. But I don't go out of my way to populate it unless like it is a major thing that everyone knows about. Like when I did my first edition game, I went, there are known ruins about a week and a half travel north east from the town that the player started at, and everyone knows that in this forest, in this like primeval, like proper dark, and it's not dark, sorry, proper old forest, there is an elven town, and everyone knows it's there. People know it exists. There's been elves from that town who has passed through and confirmed that it exists, so it's on the map. But these are some of the major sites that the players know of, and the players won't know more than just like, here are the basic rules of this place, and then I will populate it as the players go on. My second edition is notorious for that. Go on, sir.
It's like what I've just done, for example, with these hills. I've just allowed Inkarnate to pick random stamps for me. I've changed one or two, but the idea is to say there are hills in this region.
Yeah. Completely agree. And you don't need to be precise about how big they are, because the guy might have gone like, oh, good grief, there's a terrible amount of hills, and he will draw, for example, like a lot in one area, but it might just be like a couple of nasty ones. And then there are other ones like where it was just one, but that's because they were smart and they actually followed like a routine that animals would make. So it wasn't that difficult. So he just made a small hill, whereas the players go around like, we're not going to do this. And then they have to like basically scale 45-degree, hills and climb over. It's like, how is this just one hill? They're difficult.
And sometimes the hills might just be gentle rolling downs. Other times they might be big old lumps, but they might be shown by the same image on the map.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm just looking to see. I'm going to pick a few specific hills because I do want to just make. There we go. So there we go. There's some hills. It's rolling terrain. It just gives you the impression. There are a few areas that are a bit more upland than others, but it's generally just rolling terrain. And I have just noticed that some other rivers will just about squeak onto the map enough to be picked up on by a cartographer, but not in any great detail.
Yeah. Major things that should be on a map should be on the map. And I mean, as I said, to these, I then populate as we go along. Like my second edition game, we had like an entire forest that was just like, oh yeah, this is just lawless forest. And then the players went in there and they learned like, okay, it's lawless, yes, but there's like what's called for steads, which is chaotic neutral people who have now made this their home, and they basically just don't like taxes, and they have rejected society as such. and then they've gone out to do all of these things. So the players didn't know about this until they went there, and equally so, they learned about the hierarchies of gnolls, bugbears, and hobgoblins that had basically set themselves up and that was warring with the human steads. And it was a really intricate one where I would then have to go really zoom in and basically go like, here are X's with different colors as you learn from the locals what kind of tribes are in the area. And that became very important because the players then had to do tactical decisions of where they were going, which tribes that they were going to be facing, and how they would be migrating around the area. And they loved that. It was very much down to the amount of effort that the players put into the game would be returned. And that was that just sort of showed them that even though, yes, they are in a civilized, kingdom, there are huge swaths of areas where the law just does not apply.
Yes. Now, one thing I don't think of that, when I do my trees on my drawn maps, I do a top-down view. So they look more like sort of bushes rather than actual physical trees. And I do wish there was an option in Inkarnate to have the same sort of effect rather than just tree images. Unfortunately,
the question,
it doesn't.
Well, I would ask the question of, would they really be top-down on a map?
Depends how lazy the artist is.
Fair enough.
I'm a lazy artist. I'm not an artist.
No. Like when you're gonna get, things like that, I suppose.
Yeah. And as with the hills, you don't need to show all the forest. You just need to show the general area that has some forest in it. Doesn't need to be exact. So if the players will know if they travel a day southeast of Ford Hall, there's going to be some forested hills. There you go. Forested hills. That is quite enough. And then we'll just dot where other bits of forest are shown. I am still following this map I've got in front of me.
Yep.
When I design my own map, so I almost always put forests with rivers. I'm quite pedantic like that. Forests and rivers do go together very well. They are naturally occurring geographic features.
Yeah, and again, like it's not like the artist is a cartographer, from what I would imagine. Just been sort of like, I'll just scribble on a couple of trees over here. That's a forest. But Bernard, that's 5 trees over there. Yeah, you want to draw all of them? No, I'm shut up.
It's an area of trees there. Now, it's not a very heavily forested region, Cardaland, though. It's basically pockets of copses. It's copses.
Yeah.
Of light woodland. So you don't want them too densely packed anyway. I'm just going to preemptively, because I have a feeling my computer's starting to go very slowly. So I'm just doing a quick save. Don't want to waste this wonderful artwork. And this is.
I am going to have to quickly drop out. I need to run to Tesco and get some things. But yeah, I'll probably be
enjoy.
Back in 30, 40 minutes. See you in a bit.
If I'm still good. It means I've got to pay attention to chat now, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. I can't distract you anymore.
No. Oh, hello, Squirrel. Didn't see you sneak in. We've got a massive 3 people on the far side of the Atlantic to me. So I am aware it's going to be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. So you are the lunatics who are awake on a Sunday morning at stupid o'clock. It's 1:10 here. This is the right time to be up and about. Yeah. You can see my poor old computer is chugging. I do potentially have a better computer on the way. just waiting for my friend to pull his finger out and get it set up. It's his old one, his old gaming machine. He's doing me a really good price on it. Yes, it's 4 years old, but it was very high spec 4 years ago, so it's plenty for streaming and doing this sort of nonsense. Where are you, Green Dragon? So you're east of me. You must be east of me. Oh, Manal, you are old. Yeah, great. So are you, if you're east of me, you've got to be Germany, France, maybe somewhere in Scandinavia, Netherlands, Belgium. I was right with my first one. General Nut, you fell asleep early yesterday because you were involved in a 9-hour OSE session with me. I had a good night's sleep as well, unsurprisingly. It's the longest I've ever DM'd for online over Discord. Yeah, we weren't playing the game entirely for the full 9 hours, but most of it. But I think we had a good time. Good old school session. Good old school lethality. Good old school mapping, old school characters, old school rules, old school dungeon, old school players, old school DM. Yes, that's how it should be. But for just a bit of background for those who are we're still waiting for my map to say. In this MERP game, my players start up in the Bree Shire area. Did a few bits and bobs around there, and decided to take a trip down the Brandywine. They had heard of issues in southern Cardaland, so they thought rather than go by road, they go and they arrived in Ford Hall by San Ford. They found a decrepit town that's, because it's on the frontier, it's had issues over the years. It's been not raised to the ground and rebuilt. Overlooking the town on the northwest bank of the Brandywine is an old Arthurdane Tower and another village, Stonehall. I'm terrible at remembering village. Stonehall's smaller but newer, and they just sort of got themselves ingratiated with some of the locals in Ford Hall. This scenario is bits of it. I added G's from the southeast that would have been displaced by the activities of various individuals that are going on, happening down there. And my group got themselves ingratiated with the refugees. Last session, they pretty much worked out who the bad guy was in Ford Hall, what he was old legend, possibly true, about an old sorcerer summoning a demon troll on where the Daneforce. It was long used in reality. The warlord buried the wall to cause Arthur Dane last whatever. I mean, so this is what I'm doing at the moment, just making some maps of the region. I'll give them to the players. Have I gone choppy? Have I gone choppy? That's because my computer's struggling. And where was I? So the players are just going to have these maps now and just decide where they want to go, what they want to do. Do they want to go straight towards Krebdurga? Do they want to pick up on other things? Because I'm now going to put other things on this map, things like ruins and what have you, which they might want to investigate. They might want to go to Tharbad. They might want to go to that town on the way to Tharbad. It's completely up to them. Completely up to them. Omanal, roads that lead to nowhere. There aren't any roads that lead to nowhere. Are there? You've got one road that leads to Tharbad, one road that leads to Bree, the road that crosses Sarn Ford, passing Ford Hall, which goes further into Arthurdane. Those are the only roads. Yeah, there's 2 roads on the map. Mines in this region in Cardalan? No, not really. It's not a mining region. Though maybe Krebdurga, it's quite hilly down there. There might be something like that down there. But this region here is just rolling hills. Yeah, you'd probably think of rivers. They are rivers. The one in the northwest is the Brandywine. I don't know the names of the other 2. I don't even know if they were ever named. Anyway, a few little notes on this map that I've got here of unnamed ruins. Somewhere about what the ruins might be. But it's not important. It's not important. So let's see if we can find some ruin icons. There we go. Symbols, extra locations. There we go. Plain ruin icons. That's way too big. Again, these don't need to be particularly exact. Is that a ruin? Or does that look like a town? Hmm. Who knows? Who cares? It does appear to be a ruined tower over here. On these hills? Right. Layers. I'm going to play with layers here. There we go. It was hidden behind the hills. Is a sign of, oh, yeah, there's a small waterway I've missed off and some possible hills down here because there's potentially a ruin there as well. In fact, there's even a possible entrance. Look around, see if you can find some stuff. Do a smaller waterway. Here. And some more upland areas. I mean, whether it looks like they're more like ridges or whatever on this map, but doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter. Hills. What's going on? And that is this map. That is all it needs to be. Very, very simple. Pops on here though. Well, nice. That done. I could add names to those creeks. I would have to. I'd have to think of them. I mean, I could certainly search through the lore in the Arnor book to see if they do have names. Otherwise, I might have to make them up. But these, I mean, this is meant to be a hand-drawn map that they found, and the ruins. Yeah, even things like shattered wall, old tower, that sort of stuff. I can do that, but that's the basis of that one saved. And let's move on to Kreb Durga itself, because of course that's where they want to go. That's what they want to do eventually. So let's get another map open. That is saved. So if I return to my maps, turn to your maps, there it is. Love a new one. Create new map. Again, we're using the parchment effect one. And this one, this I want to give the impression that the maps don't fit perfectly well. There are going to be gaps between them. There might be crossovers. There might be contradictions. So I'm going to do this one portrait. There's something on my screen there. I spat on my screen. There. And let's color it all in. So there is the parchmenty background. Might be worth having. It seems as a different shade of parchment. This is each. So let's see if we do have some different colors. Yeah, oh great. Parchment textures. Let's play with parchment textures in this one. Parchment stained. Perfect. Perfect. They can be like that. Really, really like. I haven't played much with the parchment one before, so I am learning along with you chaps. Now there is of course, there is a river. There is a river running past Kreb Durga. And this river wiggles down the map. Doesn't need to be accurate. Hold on. Subtract. I need to be on subtract because you add land and you subtract. Wiggly river running down the map. Well, only the general. That's the way the river goes. The map doesn't need to state that. A little bit runs off there. So that's the river around which Kreb Durga is set. Kreb Durga itself is like a fortress. So let's get the while waiting for the catalogue to open. I'm just going to see. I do like having things unnamed, and no, these are the maps that you'll be getting. Your characters have found these maps, so it's you'll. I'm assuming in the couple of weeks that you're resting between adventures that your characters will be looking at these maps. And of course, you might not want to go down to Kreb Durga just yet, seeing as you are aware that the warlord has a troll army, and trolls are something that you shouldn't be fighting quite yet. All right, let's go back to the map. I am on one screen, so I do apologize if I'm a bit slow keeping up with comments. My computer can't cope with two monitors. Hopefully in a few weeks' time I'll have a better computer which will be able to cope with two monitors, so I might actually be a remotely capable streamer by that point. Doubt it. Doubt it. Okay, we're looking for like a fortressy type effect. Now, yeah, it says elven. That says it's dwarven. They say they're human. I don't know. I want something fortressy, something a bit dominant. We'll use this. We'll use this orc icon. Yes. Thought there might be something in there. Perfect. Crab Durga. Script. I did try and find a hand. These are the script half decent. Doesn't need to be that bold. This one yet. We'll see how it looks. Crab Durga. Here, further down the river, there are a number of other towns along the river, which I'm going to need to look up the names of. But I do know that the town to the south is called Siduri. So we will put that down there. Siduri being a major port on the Guathlo. Crab Durga is in a load of hills. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. And there's quite a lot of little tracks running around this area as well. So there's going to be lots and lots of details for you to fill in this map. And I'm pretty sure that none of this is going to be detailed in the book. But hey ho. First, while that's loading. Level in MERP, level 2 isn't twice as good as level 1. It is level 2 is level 1 plus a little bit. And General Nut does have terrible dice. Hungar, you should be asleep. Hungar, go to sleep. Take it from me now. Before I'm going to see what the smaller hills look like. Just to give this map a different style, possibly drawn by a different author. In fact, I might do a mixture of the two. There we go. It doesn't need to be very even. It's a different style. There we go. There are some hills over here. Nothing particularly major. And we'll put some hills there. And how about more hills? And these little hills, they don't have to be in the right place. They can just be dotted around to give the idea of a rolling landscape. We will have give an idea of a few bigger hills. A bit more crap. It's not mountainous size, but not quite like that. And actually, find out the name of this before next week's game. I'm not a total Tolkien nerd. I don't have all these things memorized like some people. Right. Sounds like my family are going out. Supposed to be going, oh, no. Right. Great. Terrain features. Opponents are scared. And it's as simple as that. Opponents are scared. Oh, look. Cliffs. Ooh, okay. The next one I do, I might use that. We use those cliff symbols to show the ridges, to give them a bit more definition. But I can't see anything indicating swamp. If you haven't got the right symbols, a bit of coloration maybe. Bit of coloration. Just a more darkly stained area, perhaps. The parchment map. It's the only issue with the parchment one is it has got fewer symbols than all the others. I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do some staining, some splattery stainings. So let's go back to it. So the swampy bits, I'm just going to stain them more heavily. or maybe a different style stain. No, I don't want ocean text. I don't want the texture so much. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it with this ugly sort of yellowy stain. These will be and there's another swampy bit now where official a bit more. It's quite bad. Okay. Because you're likely to have 3 times as many hit points and a lot more spells. In MERP, it's not quite the case. It ain't quite the case. Yes, original edition. MERP's books, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. That's what I'm using for this map I'm doing. That's one of the map sections from the original 2nd edition Arnor book. Very, very nice. Very, very very nice. Okay, so we're going to go back to towns, maybe village. Do we have... Ag. I am typing. It's just the keyboard's not liking it. I want orc icons because it is a mostly human area. So that's and they would be simple, wouldn't they? Simple, just something habitation, because we do have a little bit of habitation, including little village there. Find out. There we go. But I think these would be done in the form of roads. Right. Okay. Again, these do not need to be. I don't want white ones. Change the color. Come on. There we go. Route comes on from there and sort of follows the path of the river. Goes this way, that can be addressed on that track. There we go. Now, they are only little tracks. As just a cheap and cheerful it's meant to be hand drawn. It looks a bit scruffier than the other one, but again, it could be a completely different artist. The whole idea is it's just meant to give an idea of what's around. So we're going to save that. Durga. As before, it's taking ages to save. When I do more permanent sort of maps, obviously I do spend a fair bit longer on them. I want to get the effect a bit more, effects a bit smoother, a bit more detailed. Try and get things looking right. But these are just meant to be sort of sketched maps on sheets of parchment that the players have found to give you to give them an idea of the general lay of the land. It took a couple of minutes to save last time. Slow computer. So let's have a little look. Runic script would be great. I'm stuck with the options that Inkarnate presents. I don't have the skill to develop my own stuff all the time. I'd rather spend my time. I've got 2 jobs, but I'd rather spend my time actually playing than putting it all into prep time. Yes, there's something to be said for making things really, really detailed and really authentic, but you just want to play most of the time. Yesterday's game, I put in Discord, we played for 9 hours, and I was working with 3 maps, of which only 2 were ever referred to. About 30 keyed locations on the dungeon level, of which we used half, and about 4 pages of notes regarding the town. And that's it. I've left gaps. I've said to the players, if you want to give an NPC, an unnamed NPC, a name, go on, off you go, do it. Just an off-the-cuff comment means that the mountain overlooking the town of Yule is called Crumpet Mountain. I hadn't named it. In fact, should we bring up the town of Yule once this is saved? Just to show you a bit more about what we've done. How to make Inkarnate look a little bit usable. Yeah, it's finally saving. Good. Yeah, let's bring up my little map. Right. I've used a different palette. I've used this different set of art tools for this one. Again, I've done nothing complicated at all. Nothing complicated at all. Pasted it all with bits of grey and brown and green just to give it that sort of slushy look. The roads are just simply painted brown tracks. Stamps, I have twisted some. One of the issues with Inkarnate is it's difficult to get a good 3D effect on some of the roads because a lot of the stamps are at the same angle. So you're always looking at the front door of a house, and if you flip it round, the house is then upside down. So some of the stamp sets are a little bit limited. So I want to see the back of a house. I mean, look at the road up by 14, 24, 23. I'd love to put a line of houses down there, but it has to be the back of the houses because the perspective, and it looks a little bit awkward. But seriously, it doesn't really detract from the map too much. But that's that map. And yes, I've used cliffs on that one. Cliffs down the side. Few different types of tree, sizes and angles of fences to try and show off like an area of farmland. The Wizardy Gardens over here. Nice pretty flowers. And plenty of gaps. I mean, there's some quite big buildings which have got no stamps on them, which could easily be something. It's for the players to do that. A nice big building over here. Does it belong to someone who's important? Is it currently vacant? Could it be used for something else? Who knows? Who knows? Always leave those gaps for the players to fill in. Let's go back to the map. And go to the main region one. Again, I've used a very white palette because it's meant to be a wintry, quite. That is now Mount Crumpet, or Crumpet Mountain, whatever they want to call it. There's a little stream that runs along down the town of Buell. Importantly for me is to try and get the maps looking geographically believable. Rivers always run downhill and usually empty into a larger body of water or marshland. And in this sort of region, you would not get much in the way of marshland because it's icy. So we've got sort of like an icy, jaggedy coast, rivers moving down, gradually larger rivers and exiting in the ocean. No idea what to call these bay areas yet. That could come up with that. Try to just get a bit of grading on the colours to show where the ice and snow would not be as thick. Lakes, upland areas, different types of forest, to be honest, and regions of hills and different types of mountains put up here to just give the idea of sort of like icy glacier type effect. Plenty of islands. If you zoom in now, you can see I've tried to make everything look quite craggy. The islands aren't quite as craggy, but doesn't matter unless you zoom in. They look absolutely fine. Zoomed out to that in near the bottom. You can see the little islands in the lakes. Again, the lakes aren't named. Don't need to be yet. As far as I'm concerned, the campaign will hardly take place in the town of Yule. And I've got a few world maps as well. Probably my favorite world map is this one. And yeah, it's taking I've used a lot of different stamps on this one. It doesn't show all your areas of terrain. Oh, whoop. Clumsy old man. Just looking at names of Gingerbeard saying Cripple Creek. In Worcestershire, there are, I think it's a river called the River Piddle. And there are a number of villages with Piddle in their name. It was quite funny. I think that's amusing. Creeks, we call them streams over here. I mean, what's the difference between a creek and a stream? Has my audio improved anyway? If anyone has bothered to stay in chat, let's let me know if the audio has picked up, because my family have gone out, so my internet connection should be smoother. Should be smoother. Inkarnate still loading. Right, we're back on this map. That's what I wanted. Just wanted to map around. Okay, so down the bottom, deserts. In the middle of a mound, a ring of mountains. The deserts are meant to be shielded a little bit from the ocean winds. It's very dry in there. Quite lush coastal regions, and then as you go north, it gets a little bit more barren. And you've got things like rivers with lots of tributaries, icy islands, pine forests, icy hills. I think I always go dot a few islands off the coast as well, because islands are always interesting. I always felt I could have put a few more islands on this map. I think it is a little bit short of islands, but this map did take quite a long time to do. And I ran a campaign that lasted for ages. And this was the region. All there. It was like my version of the Sword Coast. Everything was happening. There are no towns and cities on here because it's meant to be a forgotten continent. Very, very wilderness. Very, very desolate. And the idea was I would add things in as we went along. Other thing you can do in Inkarnate. You know, on Friday nights we might creating a Firetop Mountain map. There's another part of it. This, if you remember, where you cross the waterway, there are multiple places where you can cross. I haven't finished doing the walls up until the middle point. Different types of descriptions in there to different flooring and different caverns. So look at the entrance down here. But it's very much a work in progress, or work was in progress that has stopped temporarily. But you can do these sort of maps. Probably a better flooring design you could use for this, but just coloured all that in. But this is Firetop Mountain. And I will tell you now, if you are watching and you're one of those that always go west, this is where you have to go east. Here. If you can see my pointer. Here. You must go east at this one. If you go here. We have a Saxius back. We have a Saxius back.
I do.
Hello, Saxius.
Hello. Have you had fun?
How long have you been lurking there for?
Give or take.
How long
like
have you been lurking
minute.
there for? A minute. Oh, right. Okay. So you just heard me rambling. That was it.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. I've done two of those maps. Second one was a bit more scrappy than the first. So I tried to just make out it was a different author. Yeah, if the audio's coming and going, that's not great. But that's going to be Inkarnate draining the resources of my computer. I've never played with Wonderdraft. I've seen what Elfbait's been doing with it, but it's a one-off purchase, I believe, for Wonderdraft.
Yes.
And I'd probably been better off buying Wonderdraft rather than deciding to spend money on a subscription to Inkarnate, because I've now subscribed to Inkarnate for about a year, so I've probably spent twice as much on that than I would have done buying Wonderdraft as a one-off. Oh well. But no, these cave maps that they're actually more fiddly to do, because each of these wall sections, you see, there's one over here which isn't lined up. That's just my wobbly hand. You've got to spin and line up every single one, and there's so many stamps you've got to place in to build these walls. It's a proper pain in the posterior.
Well, I wouldn't even recommend putting walls in there to begin with. Like,
why not?
Is it actually needed for the map?
Yes, because of the way.
No, it isn't. That's maybe you just being pedantic about you needing there to be walls.
So I think the walls look better than the no walls bit up here.
Well, I'm going to have to make you eat some words here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're the one who keeps on going on about old school and just drawing it out, and here you are going above and beyond my level of detail. So tell me, John, which side of the fence are you on?
Okay. Do you want me to do a wall up a Firetop Mountain in the old blue style with just plain straight walls?
I mean, that is totally up to you. I'm just saying, it's not like, if we really want to go through all these, details, it's not needed. It's a nice thing, but it's down to like who exactly, as Gerald not just pointed out, who is seeing the map, who is going to have use of it.
This for me was just a pet project to do on a cold wet
fair
day.
Enough. Fair enough. Killing time, decent enough excuse for why you would be doing it. When it comes to many other projects, I often sort of go out and look at it from the point of view of like, what multiplier is a map going to give? And my experience is usually down to like, well, I mean, I own a lot of pre-made maps and pre-made items that I can use, and from that, I'm allowed to then sort of like populate a room without going those extra miles. Like, here's the table, here's this, here's that, or if some groups that I have, just don't have imagination. They would just go, well, why haven't you drawn a table, Oscar? Where is my shelves? How much of the wall does the shelf take up? Like, some players will not have that imagination, and then it's just easy for me to just plop down. Here it is. You can insert the rest yourself. Whereas others, especially yourself with the Shadow of the Demon Lord, I more or less just go rambling with description, and it's just gobbled up like an owl.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday when we were playing OSC, it was up to the players how they did their mapping.
Yeah.
And they went over to Albert Rodeo and started doodling on there.
Yeah.
And I think some people were drawing on home. And here, hello, Gene. Gene was there for the entire session yesterday.
Christ. Gene, you've got fortitude that I would need to prepare for.
General Nut was there for the entire session yesterday. Who else was there? Was Maynard there for the entire? I think Maynard was there for the entire session as well. I know Brian came in and joined us after a while, and then DK joined in towards the end. Gingerbeard was there for the entire session as well.
Oh, Christ.
And I'm sure I've forgotten somebody. Who have I forgotten?
Those are the main. Oh, Slan also appeared.
Oh, Slan, yes, of course, Slan was there. Yes, Slan was there for the entire session. Yeah,
God,
us old guys have got some stamina.
Yeah, like, they've got stamina. Like, I would need to tell my wife that, like, okay, from this moment on, I don't exist. You need to feed me. You need to come in, provide me with things, and I will be texting you when I require items, and you will just need to provide. Mind you, I do the same for her on a daily basis, but that's marriage.
My wife generally left me alone. She popped her head around the door to say she was going to the chip shop at about 6 o'clock, and then I heard a shout from downstairs, "Chips!" So I went and fetched them, and yes, I ate them while I was DMing. I did show them off on camera because it was quite impressive. British fish and chips is always very good. Have you heard anything about your character in the game, Saxius? Well, the NPC that is named after you.
I did not hear anything. No one has clued me in. All I have seen is just the amount of people who joined, and me just taking along, just going like, why is they've been going on for hours now? I remember looking at them at around like 2 or so o'clock, and they're still going when I was starting my Saturday game at about 10 in the evening. I was just thinking, what is going on? And right up until you then wrote that recap, there were still people in there. I was just thinking, like, absolute madmen. I mean, applaud you, but madmen. I would have loved to have been a part of it. I just didn't know it was going to go on for that long. And
some weeks it might, some weeks it might not. That's just a bit the nature of it. It's going to be one of those ones where people can just drop in and drop out, and if you want to come along and play for an hour, do so.
I'll need to read up on OSE as well, just to sort of catch on, because it's like 1E basic, like that era of D&D. It's not one I'm well versed in, or off the top of my head. I mean, I know D&D, but
on a grade of 1 to 10, with 1 being easy and 10 being difficult, the rules grade in at -5.
Which I get that everyone says this OSC is easy, but like at the same time, people shout like, "Oh, basic fantasies are so easy." Yeah, but that's because there's literally just a skeleton set of rules.
Yes,
and everything else made up. And you've seen my shelf. I like my crunchiness. I like my things of like being able to explore and expand upon foundations.
But you also like death and dismemberment and peril and that sort of stuff.
I do.
So it might not hit the crunchiness. It might not hit you, get the crunchiness itch, but
I mean, I do like a good meat grinder. You know, just sort of go like, turn them on. I mean, that's just me playing the video game Darkest Dungeon. I've had other people sort of go like, oh yeah, I've invested all this time. I made very tactical decisions and all this, and these characters have survived for so many weeks. And I just sit there and go, Weeks. You characters survive that long? I literally roll through the roster. I don't care about their names until they reach level 3. They are meat. for the slaughter. I achieve my goals by literally throwing heroes at them. If I could have more than 4 heroes going at the time, there would be like 12 people entering these dungeons, and maybe 3 or 2 of them will come out. That is my expectation of life expectancy when it comes to some of these things, and I love it. That is exactly. Thank you. I like that. Not we had crunch, we had death, and we had crunch death.
Oh, we did, yeah. I mean, that was my page of notes for the day. You can see various crossings out and changes in marching order where characters died and things like that. I'm such an organized DM.
It depends. Like, I mean, for this, like, this is what I would equivalent to DCC. The funnel. Everyone's got like 2 or 3 characters that they're playing, and it's it's not a party at this point. It's a war band that's entering in to do some clearing out. And that's where, the horrors of the frontier comes out.
Let's run through some of these characters we had yesterday and the players.
No. You do not get to tease me like that and go like, do you know about the NPC that was named after you? No, come on. Spill the beans.
Oh, you want okay. Right. There are a number of NPCs in the town, all retired adventurers. And they're all named after regulars who appear on the Wednesday panel.
Nice.
Okay, and I did say at the start, don't even ask them to join you on the quest because the answer will be a flat no. Mm-hmm. They are retired. They have no interest.
Makes sense.
But they are all high level, so don't mess with them either. Leave them alone. They're not there to be killed. They're there to help if need be and get in the way if need be. It's fair to say that I think your NPC probably had the most impact. Because Saxius is a retired thief, and he runs the customs house.
I like that.
Where goods brought in and out of Yule, especially loot that is the adventurers are carrying, is all taxed.
Of course it is.
He'll also buy and sell gems and jewelry. But he decides what the price is, not the adventurers, because he's in charge. And he has this big pile of notes, very neat notes, everything neatly boxed up, almost spreadsheet-like, all laid out in front of him. And pretty much the first thing he did was they were like discussing the payment for the first journey in, and Saxius was like, right, so yes, the payment for this is 500 gold pieces. The other guy, I can't remember who Omenal was the one they were talking to, was like, I thought we agreed 600. He said, Saxius is like, yes, I have already taken off the taxes. 10%. And the party were like, hang on, 10% of 600 is 540. And Saxius was like, damn it. I've been because of course he had tried to skim off 40.
Of course I had.
For himself. And that was their introduction.
Administration fees.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so I'm picturing that this is very much out in the frontier. This is where tradesmen appears every so often. They will deal with established individuals to do the trading because there's a mutual setup, and then that person is the local person who then distributes out goods from there. It's like the general store kind of thing. I like that you've sort of put this person up there as like, I will absolutely skim shit off by...
Yeah, of course he will.
By doing this if you don't know your math. And as the DM, you can definitely sit there and go like, wait, your character has got what intelligence? And you are literate how? And then these questions get asked, and the players will sit there and go, oh shit.
They've got a couple of characters in the party who are quite intelligent, so
good. That's good.
It was fair enough.
Yeah, that is fair enough. And yes, you are right. Try to rip us off. That's exactly what I would do too if I was a DM and I was told to put a character like that into the game. He is going to be running the economical powerhouse, especially when it comes to things like gems, because you're going to need to appraise that yourself. And then you're going to be haggling with them. I like this. I like this, John. Yes, yeah, this is highly approval. You get my stamp of approval for this.
Yeah, yeah. Right, the characters that took part. General Nut was brave to play an old school magic user.
Oh, nice.
First level magic user. The spell he had memorized was Hold Portal. He survived. He survived the entire session. He did a bit of oil hurling and missed on almost every occasion. He has got a dog with him, which he actually forgot to bring with him for the first 3/4 of the session. Fluffy, the war dog, who was a very, very good boy. Liked to run around with a goblin limb in his mouth at one point. Sat down, begged to say, "Throw limb, play fetch, play fetch." Oh, you took read languages with you. Oh, you had right, okay, yeah. You've got Whole Portal in your book, though, haven't you? Along with read languages. Read languages didn't prove to be remotely useful.
No.
Sadly, but no, Fluffy was a good boy, and Fluffy did save the party in a big fight. We had Slan, who started off with a big bumbling oaf of a cleric called Arik. High strength, high wisdom, no dexterity to speak of, and he played into it absolutely magnificently. You did find a door towards the end. There aren't many doors in there that you found so far. You did find a door towards the end. Unfortunately, Arik was the second character to die. They decided to try and hide behind a wheelbarrow to protect themselves against an onrushing group of goblins, and it didn't prove to be particularly effective. Nice. He's now playing a thief called Jan. Jean played Tully, a fighter who was very heroic and very effective and took out 2 goblins by himself, but sadly a giant lizard tore his throat out later on. So Tully was the third character to die. Maynard started off as Ignore, a cleric. He was the first character to die. The same onrushing group of goblins stabbed him about a round before they stabbed Eric.
Nice.
He's now playing Dononix, a very clumsy, very poorly statted druid with 1 hit point who managed to survive the rest of the session. We've got Gingerbeard, who's playing the part of Cook Holly, been in our Discord channel talking about Cucullin. That's a bit of a play on words there. Who is a thief? Managed to avoid getting in combat almost completely throughout the entire session, as a thief should. Occasionally flung in an arrow or a sling, and made sure he shared out thieving duties with anybody else that came along, because thieving at first level is very, very dangerous. Yes, Gene, you just bought yourself a brand new suit of plate mail armor to make sure you would survive, and then you had your throat torn out by a giant lizard. Cook Holligan is still alive. Brian joined us later on with a cleric called Barclay, who is very much alive. And DK joined us towards the end as well, and DK is playing a paladin.
Of course he is.
And
did he actually get the stats for that?
You only got to have a charisma of 9 in OSC.
Oh, okay.
So he rolled a really good, an ideal paladin character. Decent strength, decent charisma, decent wisdom, low intelligence, low dex, he's actually got he's quite low constitution, but I think he has got. Because everyone's rolling about four characters, and this one was a character of extremes. High strength, high charisma, not a lot else. He's got penalties on other things. His intelligence is where there is 1 penalty. But he's a paladin, and he's trying to do the heroic things. Combat has also been a thing of extremes. They did very well when they the initial onrushing group of goblins cut them to pieces, and they ran away.
So are you using the advanced fantasy rules then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But then they attacked the main. They captured one of the goblins, and he's now working at the inn. The inn is owned by Hungar,
Right.
who is a jolly bearded fellow who likes to play games and generally have a good chat with people. But at the moment, his brother is visiting, and his brother's wife is having to serve behind the bar because Hungar and James are in the back room playing with little carved figures.
I like
Which
this.
is what tends to happen when they get together. But James's wife is currently serving at the bar, and she's just employed the goblin that they captured.
Nice. That I mean, it sounds very old school in that sense, and I do like that. It's very like, we're going in here. Don't ask questions why. We're just gonna plunder this for loot. We're gonna maybe get some things out. There's gonna be high mortality rate, but we all knew that. And
yes. But they persuaded the goblin to work for them by offering him money, and got, as we made set in as canon in our Shadow of the Demon Lord game, goblins like work.
Exactly. I like that you're carrying this into your future games now. Goblins believe that they have to work, which is why they find tribes, is why they go raiding. This is all just a giant job for them. When the tribe falls apart, you can just the motivation disappears, and they're sort of like, well, what do I do now? It's like, why don't you come and work for us? God, son of a bitch, I'm in.
And and when he got tipped a gold coin. So what did he do to his gold coin when he got it? He licked it. It's now his.
This headcanon is going to continue for years, isn't it?
Yes. So he got paid a gold coin. So he loves his new job. Though when he did get paid by the adventurers, they said, "Here's a gold coin. Go and get us a load of drinks." It did bring into question whether he would lick this coin as well, or actually go to the bar and hand it over to the barmaid to serve the drinks, because here was a coin that he'd been given, and his goblin tendencies will creep in because he wants this gold coin as well. But he was told he would be paid at the end of the day. So, but then the party went back in, and in proper old school fashion, and Mage's Musings will like this, the only reason why it kicked off with the other goblins, it did start off a slightly negative thing because, of course, they'd kidnapped one of his tribe as far as they were concerned. They'd kidnapped, the goblin that's now working for them is kidnapped as far as the goblins are concerned. But I rolled a reaction roll.
Oh, yeah.
And rolled really badly. They got a bonus initially, actually, because they were offering the goblins work. And General Nut was doing the talking, and he's got a charisma bonus. But they rolled really badly. And then it all kicked off again, and they tried to calm them down, and they got a penalty the next time, and they rolled badly again. So reaction rolls define how the dungeon reacts to them. So they went to war with the goblin tribe, and now the dice turned. Tests to determine if you could trust goblins. Yes, the dice after that initial fight had turned out badly. The second rendition of the fight, the second version of the fight, turned out much better, and they absolutely wrecked the remaining goblins who ran away. So they went poking around the dungeon a bit more, and a completely random encounter with a giant lizard killed off Gene's character. That was actually caused by DK, unfortunately, because he insists on using a 10-foot pole to tap around rough cavern walls because there might be secret doors and traps in rough caverns. I do put a bit of verisimilitude in my dungeons, but rough natural caverns aren't likely to have many secret doors in them. But he does insist on tapping the wall. So he was tapping away, tap, 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 tap. What's tapping going to do? Create noise. Wandering monster check. I rolled a 1. Consulted my table. I rolled on my table. Giant lizard.
Yeah.
Hello, Doof. So that's what caused that. And yeah, they then went to, they've now discovered that it is canon in OSE, and this is an OSE thing, that giant rats are scared of fire.
Yeah.
Even a badly launched vial of burning flask of burning oil didn't need to hit the rats to scare them off. They are scared of fire.
Yeah. It's an animal
And,
trait.
yes, and the rats ran away.
Yeah.
Letting the party dig through the rat's nest to find various little items of treasure because the rats had all disappeared up their burrows.
Yeah.
Into the walls of the cavern, which they dug out of initially. They found some blue fungus. It's been identified as blue glow fungus that tastes like icing.
Right.
And if you consume too much of it, you will glow blue. They found four different types of mushrooms. They know what some of them are. They know what the rest of them are. They found a statue of St. Nicholas who reacted well to having a cookie placed in his hand. It's the town of Yule. This is the Partridge in a Pear Tree dungeon level. So
right.
There are silly Christmas references throughout.
God, makes sense.
Yeah. Does it make sense? Does it really make sense?
It makes sense that it does not make sense. Like it's within the context of the world that there is going to be some wacky setups. Just deal with it.
But there's still some naturalism in the dungeon, whereby the goblins had dammed the river, the underground river, in order to create a fishing pool because they were bored of eating mushrooms and rats. And now they've got fish in their diet as well.
That's good.
And there's a bit of that bit of balance in the dungeon. And I have created an environment that sort of works within the constraints of having bits of silliness. And that's what I'm hoping to portray. That's pretty much how the session went.
Sounds good, Bill.
Oh, and they've got these little throwing balls as well, fireball balls, like little baubles, but with flames in them that they can throw. They know what they are now. I'm wondering whether I'm going to put in things like electrified tinsel and stuff like that at some point in the adventures and whatever. I don't know. We'll see what comes into my head.
Oh, a lot of things can come out of this.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe a whole level that smells like stuffing and that sort of thing.
Oh dear. Fair enough.
So this level is a partridge in a pear tree. So we've got 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves. So level 2 of the dungeon will be 2 turtle doves. So what am I going to do with that? There's got to be something to do with turtles. There's got to be something to do with turtles. I know what my 3 French hens are going to be. And my 4 calling birds could get a bit adult.
Good. I've told one of my Saturday players about your setup for this like customs house, and he's responding back with, "That is so ingenious. I'm stealing that."
Oh, good.
So that's some flattery right there for you, John. You know, someone actually going like, "I like this. I'm putting this in my game." An excuse to swindle players out of their money. Well, taxation.
But total prep. The entire game was 2 Inkarnate maps. 1 map I drew.
Yeah.
A page of notes regarding the dungeon and generally how it works and wandering monsters. 4 pages of keyed areas for the dungeon. And 2 pages of notes regarding NPCs in the town and people they can hire, and the beginnings of town notes regarding what's going on in the town. That's it. The rest of it is all made up. And all just reactions to what the players are doing. Just a framework and reacting as they all go along.
Yeah.
In old school fashion. I don't know how many notes you're using for our Shadow of the Demon Lord game, but
each session is consisting of between 3 to 6 bullet points. Everything else is improvised for that because that's what I wanted from that game. I wanted the moment the entire group said we're going to be doing goblins, we're going to be doing, more or less like more comedy orientated, or like, well, really dark humor when you step away from the fun that we're having out of it. Like, it's actually really grim what's accomplished. Um, it's that's sort of like the what's it called? The general sort of spiel I got from what the players wanted, so I went with that. So a little bit more lighter on the notes, and sort of like, okay, just gotta be ready to like swing around and use my actual experience as a DM for that, rather than having what the book suggests, which is a railroaded, point A, point B, point C. I've got an overarching idea of like who is going to be the big bad when you come to like level 10, and what the outcome of that is going to be, depending on things. But like the build up to that is like, that's your own doing. I didn't expect you to bring back the ogres to Scarborough. I didn't expect you to feed the entire village of Scarborough to the ogres. I didn't expect you to then go.
We didn't expect to feed the whole village of Scarborough to the.
You didn't expect to actually succeed. I think that's the key thing. You didn't expect to make it this far.
The MERP maps I did with the original, I've done those earlier in the stream. The map that was on screen there was just me attempting to do the map from Warlock of Firetop Mountain, which is a very linear map in places. But we're currently waffling on about old school games.
Yeah.
An OSE game and Shadow of the Demon Lord game. But I'll bring up the MERP map I drew. It is still loading because my computer is running very slowly, trying to stream and do Inkarnate at the same time. My computer runs slowly with Inkarnate anyway, which is a pain in the backside.
Well,
one moment I really enjoyed in yesterday's session was, yes, there's only one way into the dungeon, but at one point they had about 6 or 7 different routes they could go. Because the dungeon just interlinks and spreads out, and they were trying to work out what linked with what and what spread out where, which route to go, or whether that goes down to another level. And that it dawned on me at that point that maybe I'd actually drawn a half decent dungeon in terms of layout and options and choices, and the way it links together.
That is, usually a good sign that when you've actually built it in a sense where the exploration in itself is a reward, because that information of the actual layout is now feeding back, and because the players are in charge of doing that. If they don't actually have a map, then how are you going to get back? Because you're sitting with the actual map, you're telling them like, you come back, then you start having, you would almost like reverse it around. So it's like, well, you can now go left or right, and they're like, well, we went right last time, so we'll have to go left. It's like, well, but if we do that, once it's at the crossroad, and the bickering begins, and they're lost.
Their map didn't line up properly when they found it, but they realized where they'd gone wrong. And it's not really a big enough dungeon to get lost in, because there's different portions of it. Which they've pretty much worked out. But still, the fact that they were mapping, they had all these various options, and they were a lot of the discussion was around, well, do we make sure that area is sealed off? Nothing can attack us from behind there. Shall we go down there? Is that down to level 2? Is that going to be more dangerous, and all that sort of stuff? It's proper old school dungeoneering. That's what I enjoyed about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'll have to see if I can scrounge up. So, do you roll characters when you show up, or do you pre-make those characters? Because I'm getting a bit intrigued. I might see if I can swing by.
Well, some people have got them pre-made. Some people have made them while we've been playing. It's so quick to do.
Fair enough. I might see if I can do. How many characters are you meant to play as? Or is it just one at a time?
One at a time, but most people have got 3 or 4 prepared in advance.
Sounds good. I'll make 3 just to sort of be ready, and then I'll rock up and be like, "Yo, level 1 characters. Here we go. 5 strength, 7 dexterity. Let's dab our way through this.
that would be like I think a bit like Maynard's character, his human druid with 1 hit point, who only has 1 hit point because 1 is the minimum he can have.
No,
Because he's got a -2 Constitution penalty and rolled very low.
nice.
But he's still alive. He's got a spear and he's stabbing from the 2nd rank, and it has worked. He
That is good though.
He did manage to completely kebab a goblin at one point.
Yeah, no, because I always I personally allow that, almost as a house rule, because 2nd edition just go like, well, spear is just a 5-foot reach. It's like, well, you should be able to have a spear go over the other guy, because if he's got a sword and a main weapon, or a shield and a weapon or sword and board, you should be able to have like him at the front of the other guy behind you, so that he covers the other flank where you can't fight, to put the other person off.
Yeah, it's the point of a spear.
Yeah,
literally the point of a spear. It was a very bad attempt at dad humor.
Very, very terrible. But you should feel proud that you accomplished it. Outside of that, I mean, I know. Well, I had my 2nd edition where the players, they got to learn something about the world, because they have they are dealing with the Auntie, the Drow are showing up, and they've got all sorts of like enemies lining up, and then Lich is there in the background doing his thing. So they've been calling in reinforcements. One of the players is from an empire built by necromancers, and they have a specific part of their army called the Caffeine, because they're sort of like caste based, and the army is Arabian inspired. And the Caffeine are very sort of dedicated to, we're going to go in and we're just going to like apply senseless violence for these things. And the players basically asked the question of, we are planning to interrogate the dead drow that we recently killed using Speak with Dead. What would happen if a member of the Caffeine were captured? And all of them were very uncomfortable with actually answering that, because they basically said, we might have hair now, but we were shaven, and there are scars and tattoos on our scalp for spells to fight that spell. And back home, we have like a storage area of blood from every member of this specific division that they're from. So should someone be known, or should someone go missing, and we can't find out who it was, we are yanking that soul straight back and keeping it there. And the players were like, what? It's like, yeah, we take it very serious that if we lose a member of our organization, we would rather detonate them from afar and never allow them to go into the afterlife, just to make sure that no secrets are spilled. And the player's like, and you all volunteered for this. It's like, kind of. We were too dead. We had risen up too far to say no at this stage. They're like, okay, and this is normal.
Dark.
It was. It was really dark, and the players like, and they looked at the player who was the nobleman. It's like, and you have done this because you have to protect him. It's like, yes, because when the emperor of that empire calls for him, he doesn't get a choice, because his duty will override his freedom. And the player was sitting there going like, oh, fuck. Like, and they have already told him, like, the emperor is going to be calling on him soon, because now that the emperor's learned about the Lich, the emperor more or less have gone like, I expect you to do what you can to get a hold of the Lich's book, and you are going to make sure that that's handed over to us. I don't care if you copy it, but I want the original.
My Inkarnate had crashed, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It has now woken up again. liches. I think liches are great enemies because of their intelligence, and they don't always have to be out and out destructively evil because they are intelligent, but they're devious.
Oh, so
And they are enemies to be feared, and that level of intelligence should make them. They're great end of game bad guys, but they can have
yes.
this devious impact on the game as it goes along, as the lich can twist things to their benefit.
So I have changed the rules a bit on this character because he is not a lich through necromancy.
Right.
He is a lich through making deals with devils.
Right.
He is a demonologist. He studies the planes, and he has come to understand what is going on in the actual world. He understands where dragons come from. He understands where giants come from. He understands how, the fact that the sun and the moon are actually doorways to other planes, and
the idea of the lich, the concept of the lich, is a great template to create bad guys with. Flexible bad guys.
Oh god, yeah. And the thing is, like, the players haven't met the lich. They have been in one of his layers. They have seen the absolute insanity that he has been up to. They don't understand why he has done half of these things, and they know that the chromatic dragons have had to pincer him and keep him trapped, but they couldn't destroy him for reasons that aren't known yet. And the players are like, well, we don't want to poke the bear, i.e. the dragons, because these are schemes that are way outside, and we don't want to deal with intelligent creatures, but apex predators. Like, we don't want to deal with that. So they've gone like, we don't want to get too involved. But it seems like after their visitation towards one of these places, the lich have now gotten active, and his cult members have returned to the area. And the players are thinking, oh, shoot. Recurrence of this contamination. Halakar, you are bringing up a wonderful thing, because my players did stop me from having an actual plague running rampant in their game. But yes, I'll get onto that. But yeah, so the lich is a really good end of game enemy for this. He hasn't been a recurring one throughout the entire game. That's the snake people, the Yuan-Ti. They have been the recurring one, and they're winding down. But in the process of hunting for them, they have unfortunately stumbled upon the lich. And
what sort of level are the characters at the moment? Because Yuan-Ti are potent enemies, especially in numbers.
Yes. So the players are between level 9 and 10.
Right. Okay.
They are up there. But the Yuan-Ti has been playing their games since the players were level 1. And the players have been playing around these schemes, and they have sort of like been able to, they have been the force multiplier to stop the schemes from actually happening. And I will be perfectly transparent on this, they have made some decisions that were so damn lucky that they actually found the clues that brought them to the right places. And there's been rolls from my side where I have bricked saves when I shouldn't have, and they have managed to make major crack throughs in their investigations. A really good example was they learned that the hobgoblin, going way back when they were level 5 and 6, major battle took place off their city. It was called the Battle of Confluence. It was the deciding factor of whether this major city where trade was going through, if that was going to be existing going forward. And the players had been working really hard. How they had a big impact for that, because they stood there and they did their prep work, and they managed to turn the tide, and then they pushed through. And they also managed to find and destroy the hobgoblin minting factories, because the hobgoblins weren't just waging actual physical warfare, they were also waging economical warfare against the kingdom by flooding the human world, or their economy, with fakely minted coins. And that had a huge that would have had that's
great,
but like, this was the level of thinking that the Yuan-Ti was coming from, because they were going the continuous story is everything they do is multi-layered. They don't do one action for one outcome. They do one action to have a multitude of outcomes, all in their benefit. They are long-term thinkers. The ongoing discussion is that one Yuan-Ti can live to be 1,000 years old, the equivalent of an elf, but they are so devious and cold-blooded that they are horrifying to deal with.
Yes.
I've also tweaked them a bit to have a different hierarchy because I don't agree with how the books gives them, but that's minimal stuff. And that ended up with the players being sort of like, oh, other things were happening. Taxes were being brought back in. They were warned that they might lose their tax exemption status because major things were happening, and the players have been kind of like just doodling along, making money.
Say about that hierarchy of the one. I mean, I quite like the standard hierarchy of the 1T, because the idea that probably the more devious and more intelligent ones, but physically weaker ones, are the ones that have only got slight reptilian features that can often pass as human, that could easily secrete themselves in human society. But the more fearsome, the scary ones are the ones hidden away from society, the ones that are more mutated, much more reptilian. I quite like that whole idea. Because they were nerdiness. They were first used in I1, Dwellers of the Forbidden City, and they were woefully underused in that adventure. But you can understand why, because it's an adventure for levels 4 to 7 characters, and Yuan-Ti are deadly at those levels.
They absolutely are. So what I do is that the humanoid ones, they are the grunts, the foot soldiers, they are the infiltrators, and that's the key word.
Infiltrators.
I really do emphasize on the fact that they infiltrate, because I don't like psionic abilities, so I give them magical abilities, and I give them methods which they can do. Like naturally they can do auto self, naturally they can do mimic, naturally they can do these other things, which makes them so much harder to catch. And I then give them certain other abilities that they can train themselves on to have a number of days where they can, like, just looking into what they call for the true blood, look into their eyes, and you it's not like informant, it's like suggestion is being cast upon you on a like lower level, and then it allows them to do a lot of influence that way. And
trust in me from Jungle Book. I trust in me.
Exactly. And well, the players basically they ended up sort of going like, oh, we're going to pick a random high profile case, we're going to hunt down this thief who stole a bunch of magical items. We've got to sketch up him. Let's get up our little scrying ball, and they found his skin in a cellar, hung up on meat hooks, where they learned that he had been found, killed, skinned, and he was somewhere. And then they found a symbol of a sun that was being eaten with fangs coming down like it was a snake mouth. And the players were like, "What? This sounds really ominous." And I went, "Oh, just roll some intelligence rolls." "Oh, you passed. One player passed." And I went, "You remember at the very, 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 very far back session?" And the player stopped me and went, I think I know. It was the session at the beginning of our entire campaign where we met a werewolf that had a dagger. I remember you giving me a description of a symbol of a sun." And I was like, yes, you remembered it. And I am talking 8 months in real life.
Yeah.
He had held on to that memory, and he was like, "I fucking knew it. You don't give that information without a reason." So he was just like, "Yes, we've got them." And then a big chase began. They cornered one spy of the Yuan-Ti, cast charm person. I rolled a 1, failed everything, and they managed to get out juicy information of their logistics. And the players sat down there and went, "Holy shit. This entire, like, all the build up for this has been for these major factions," and so on and so on.
Yeah. That's where they learn quite how devious you are.
Yes. And they also learned that as Doof said in the chat, like, I use Worlds Without Numbers or Stars Without Numbers, any of those systems where I run factional things. And a lot of the major events from the entire campaign came from me using that system. And that basically meant that while the players were playing their thing, I ran the world in the background, meaning the Yuan-Ti would do their influence on other factions. And then the factions would take actions upon the influence of the Yuan-Ti, meaning that everything was being run in accordance to them, the string masters behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So that escalated up. They started like one of the players from the Necromancer Empire called in reinforcements. That came in the form of the caffeine, basically level 8, level 7 to no, sorry, level 8 plus NPCs with classes, and they showed up with a level 12 diviner, where it's just like, we are here to find them and we're here to exterminate them, because the Necromancer Empire does not mess around when it comes to the Yonti. And that went on, and they've kind of dismantled them. They fought, because I changed the aboleth from being an abomination or like an aberration into being a biological war machine of the Yonti that they created, because it's very much around manipulating people using water, the key thing to life that reptilians can go very long without. That's the thing that they use to sort of like target areas, to control people, to take over areas, to influence it, and then generate lesser Yonti that they can then boost their numbers with.
Excellent.
That's been the campaign like going up so far. And during all of these things, they stopped a bunch of slavers. They don't know that the slavers are actually from the Necromancer Empire, but that's fine. They don't need to know that. The slavers were selling high quality monsters to a house, to a drow house, and the drow house now lost their main source of slaves and monsters, and they're angry about that. That's a major income for them, so they've now come up to the surface and they're trying to hunt the players for revenge. Players.
I never put this level of planning into my own campaigns. I very much create a location, create the rough outline, and then just react as things go on. React to what I think is important.
Maybe Shadow the Demon Lord is not a good example because that's too loose for my normal style. But generally speaking, every adventure that I put the players onto, or every adventure that the players choose to go on, I look at that and go like, right, the more you invest into this adventure, the bigger the impact is going to be. So if they see it from start all the way down to finish, I will make sure that there is a reward or a penalty.
So you're still reacting to the players. You're reacting to their leveling engagement in each one. So yeah.
Yes. So I've got like the high view. Here's how the world is running around. Here's what's happening. And then if the players go like, oh, this thing happened over here, I want to go investigate it. They go and they dig, and then they learn things. They react to it, and so on. I kind of put like the world thing aside, because that only happens like once every 30 days in world. So that gives me loads of time to like slow down time and then focus on this one event. And then
are these mechanics part of World Without Number?
Yes, well, kind of, yeah. So the way that it basically set up is that you have factions. They all take an action, and then you translate that action into a story. And then that story can become a plot hook. It can become something. It becomes like information that you trickle down to the players. So if they say like, oh, I'm actually really interested about the Brandlewoods, where there seems to be slaves going on and gnolls are kidnapping people, and like in the kingdom where they hate slaves, no one's reacting to it. We're going to go and find out what's going on. So they went in there. They uncovered many things, many devious things, and they stopped the slave trade. And they uncovered that there were noblemen in the higher part of the courts of the Earl that were actually hiding this because they were being paid off. So they uncovered a number of corruptive things, but they weren't directly involved in that. They just passed information along to a righteous person who, once they learned about this, really dedicated their career into seeing justice being set in. So this is the sort of thing that I went in and basically made up as I went along. But the actual mechanics of faction X did action A against faction Y. This sort of like interaction is what the mechanics makes. And then you as the DM, you sit there and go like, right, they did this for this. Here's the outcome. Here's how I turned this into a story.
So these sort of mechanics, they sound great for like a sandbox game to help the DM sort of get things to feel more grounded,
it does.
more realistic interactions between certain aspects of the world. And I like a very improvised sort of sandbox approach. And these sort of mechanics sound like they'd be very helpful to someone like me.
It does help a great deal. It also means that you can have like an overarching, especially with like the Yonti. I had an overarching theme of like I wanted them to be the big bad ones because I felt that they weren't properly used. I like weird and obscure creatures that I dig out from the monsters manuals. So
Yeah.
I thought like I bring them to the forefront in that way, and this also allowed me to do that. There are still huge chunks of things that the players have never uncovered. They haven't found out that there is a Union rebellion in the southern parts of the kingdom that is now fighting back against corruption. They don't know about that, but that's going on. They don't know that there was they did learn about an attempt to build a highway. They don't know the full reasons behind the highway. They just stopped it because the person who tried to do it in their area, they just unified and went, you know what? No, the hell with you. You stand for everything that we dislike in and out of character, and we will see you put in the ground because of how much of a vile person this person actually was. And that was all because I rolled up economical events. And the players also showed up when major events happened, like the orcs tried to put an embargo on a major port city. The players showed up just as the port city went, yeah, no, we actually have a navy. We're going to fight back. So they got to witness firsthand this major navy supported by the Elven navy just absolutely obliterating the orcs from the outcome of what I rolled. And the players just went, you know what? We want to help. We're going to smuggle ourselves across the banks over to the other side and cast web on the orc construction yards. And we're going to light it on fire.
It's a quick and easy way to create hooks, and then you dangle the hooks and you see which ones the players bite onto.
They did. And it was great. And it's an awesome way for me to generate things that are just natural. It allows me to generate a lot of things, and it allows me to sort of give a feel for the place. Like, you are in a living and breathing world. Here are things that happen. Here are things you can react to. Here's things you can get involved in. Here are things you can ignore. But like many other things, there are going to be things that the players will never see, and you as the DM, you have it in the background, but they might never be used. But that's normal. At least in my world, that's normal. That I only see 20-30% of what I actually generate being used. But I know that those 20-30% tells the players that the world has got more to offer than just what they are seeing, and they need to go digging for it. So that's why, you've got Drow, you've got Yonti, the Kuratoa also exist, and the players have learned that the Kuratoa hates the players so much that they are fighting the Drow to prevent the Drow from coming into killing the players. They actually flooded a huge quantity of networks just to keep the Drow out and slow them down, because they're like, no, you don't get to kill them. We are going to kill them. We hate them so much. We painted a mural about them killing our people because they are the devil. And
Kuratoa versus Drow goes all the way back to the late 70s. Descent to the depths of the earth. Vault of the Drow. Kuratoa and Drow do not get on.
They do
and
not get on.
That ties into that beautifully.
Yeah.
I am going to have to draw this stream to a close very, very shortly, because I haven't had any lunch yet, and this was very impromptu. I had my breakfast about 5 hours ago. I had absolutely no idea how long I was going to stream for, and I've got to go to work tonight, so I've got to have something to eat.
Yeah, no, go and eat, absolutely.
So thanks for joining me, Saxius. It's been a really enlightening sort of end to an impromptu stream, just a random chat on world building and the way that how little mechanics in other systems. Worlds Without Number is something I've never looked at. I've heard lots of good things about it. I've got so many things on my plate at the moment.
Give me a poke on, and this goes for everyone in chat as well, give me a poke on Discord. I have sat down with Slan and other people, and I've gone through how the system works. It is actually really simple. It's very easy. And yeah, sure, I use Excel for all that, but that's because that's how I work. You don't need it. It's a really simple way, and you can simplify a lot of things for it. So if anyone needs to, just give me a ping. I love geeking out about this.
We know. We know. We've seen you've been on my streams for about a year now, well and truly geeking out. But geeking out is good, and that's geeking out is something we do. But cheers all for joining us in chat. If you want to join the Saturday OSE game, we're currently planning on running fortnightly. Started yesterday at 2:00 my time, which is obviously is very early in the morning for people over the other side of the Atlantic, but we ran on till about 11:00 last night, so it went on for about 9 hours. It wasn't all game, it was mostly game, but we had a lot of fun, and it's a drop in drop out casual bit of fun, very, very old school. It's as old school as you can get. It's all to do with exploring a dungeon and seeing how the dungeon reacts to you, reaction rolls, character deaths, old-fashioned dungeon with some verisimilitude, some naturalism, but other bits of just random silliness, and lots of interesting NPCs in the town. Saxius being one of them, and there is Yogg, the friendly old druid, who has proved to be helpful so far as well. And I'm going to play up the interrelationship between DK, Elfbait, and Omen Owl as well, because of course those are things that happen on our streams, and that is the whole point of it, to make it feel like we're on a stream sometimes. But cheers all for joining me. If you want to see the bit about me drawing maps badly on Inkarnate, I drew a few earlier in the stream, just basic parchment hand-drawn style maps that the players are going to be getting in my MERP game, and it's just ever so easy, ever so quick. Throw them together. They don't need to be tidy, they don't need to be accurate, because they're designed to be hand-drawn maps that the players have found in the game, and that's all it is. But cheers for joining us today. Thanks, Saxius. Thank you everyone who's been in chat. It's just an impromptu 2.5 hour chat on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I might have to add Grumpy Cantankerous L into the town somewhere. If we can think of a decent NPC role for him to play, that would be amusing. And I need to put you in the game as well, Halakar. In fact, while we were chatting, I did go through my list of as yet unnamed potential henchmen and hirelings, and I have added in Nut, Slan, there's Doof. Doof, you're a dwarven fighter. There's a human cleric called Splat. That's Gene, Ink Splat Records. Gingerbeard, there is a character Ginger, and we've got Echo as well, who's popped in. An elf, simply known as the Hermit. That's, of course, Squirrel Hermit. And at the bottom, I've got a human thief called Oscar.
Oh dear.
And so there's a Halakar. So which one? Oh, yeah, Halakar. Yeah, you're going to be Oscar's mate, a halfling thief. I think that suits. There we go. So I've added you in there as a halfling thief. Right. Okay. Cheers all. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to go and make myself some lunch, late lunch. Cheers, Saxius.
All right. Take care. Bye.